Welcome back. It's so good to see everybody. I have a very, very, very special guest with me today. This is a subject matter which is incredibly personal to me. And last guest was on patient advocacy. Nikki Lawley was kind enough to come on and talk to us about the patient perspective. And I have with me today Leo Bridgewater, who is probably one of the best social justice advocates and spokespeople out there for the harms that cannabis has done to our society over the last 75 or so years. And this is a subject matter that's very personal to me because as I've shared, social justice is part of my DNA. My father was active in the civil rights movement in the 60s and actually invited Martin Luther King to come to Ithaca, New York to speak to the students that he was a student advisor to. He actually was at the March on Washington where Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. In 1985, I went to the former Soviet Union, timely today for what's going on, to visit refuseniks, Jews who had applied to leave the former Soviet Union who were denied exit. I was arrested, actually 5 times, detained, and then finally, after 5 or 6 days, was expelled from the former Soviet Union for conduct on becoming a tourist. Because so I have a sense for the injustice of society. And the former Soviet Union, what struck me when I left the Soviet Union in 1985 is I ended up in Finland. They put me on a train from Leningrad to Finland. The contrast between democracy and freedom and not is so clear when you literally take a train across the border. But here in the United States, we have lots of social justice advances that are still not talked about and still to the sideline. And it is so important in the cannabis industry today as we grow from a $25–30 billion industry to $50–60 billion industry just over the next 5 years, that we don't forget the message of the people that were left behind, that we are, as we're speaking right now, leaving behind. So when you and I met several years ago, Leo, and believe it or not, we still haven't met in person. I can't wait to give you a big hug in person because we're like brothers. We instantly met, and I think we had a 3-hour conversation the first time we talked because we clicked so well. Tell me about your story, because you have such an interesting story coming from a military background, buttoned up to cannabis. Right. So you come to the table with a little bit different background than most people. So tell me about your background, Leo.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate this. If I swear, listening to you talk, saying those things about me, I swear if I was white, I'd be red from blushing. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? Like, goddamn, but to all of you who don't know who I am, again, my name is Leo Bridgewater, and I am the National Director of Veterans Outreach with Minorities for Medical Marijuana and partner of Heart Community Capital. In 2016, I testified in Senate committee to have post-traumatic stress disorder added as a qualifying condition to the New Jersey medical marijuana program. And at that time, our governor was Chris Christie, and he signed that bill into law, which officially made PTSD the first mental health qualifying condition to be added to the New Jersey medical marijuana program. And so that was a big deal. That was sort of kind of like, I would say, like the singular event that kind of like put me on the map, sort of say, because it was in those efforts through my tutelage with Ken Wolski, Lefty Grimes, Jim Miller, all from Coalition of Medical Marijuana in New Jersey. They taught me how to use my veteran status to really, push the envelope to make this happen. So I had to talk to the Medical Marijuana Review Board. I had to go talk to a few senators and some assembly folks, and going up and down the state of New Jersey and now across the country, advocating on behalf of not just veterans, but just people, period, to have access to this plant, in all forms, including the business side of it all. And so, I sit on a number of boards, with the National Hemp Association's Committee for Social Equity, sit on the board of the CWCB Expo. I was on the board of the Friends of Hemp, so doing all these different things and being entrenched, especially from a legislative perspective, it gave me a different kind of viewpoint. And it's through all of that is how, the business side of it revealed itself to me, which was coupled along with the, the things that the stumbling blocks that I see from just a regular general population understanding, especially for Black people.
Well, that's one of the things that I think you talk about very clearly and cogently, better than any spokesperson, is it's not just the social justice of the 30,000 people that are in jail. I mean, that's
right.
That's of course.
Right.
We got to get them out. But you speak to it from a business perspective to participate in the upside.
Absolutely.
And talk to me about that, because that's really, I think, such an important aspect of this discussion right now. As we explode and double in size in industry, how do we include these minorities, especially the people that have been incarcerated, in this new economy?
Well, see, the thing is that what we're talking about and you have to understand, there's a way that you have to understand people are looking at this, particularly when you're talking about politicians. Because I always have to say, you got to pay politicians in the currency that they accept, and that's votes. You see what I'm saying? So when New Jersey legalized for adult use cannabis, we did it through ballot referendum, which I do not suggest for anybody else. If you can avoid it, you do so. But that's the way we did it here, by ballot referendum. And what ended up happening is New Jersey broke the record for having the largest voter count for cannabis. We did it with 67% of the vote, which was a record. The highest was California with 60. And so when you think about, the thing about this particular area, and there are certain nuances to this area that you have to live here in order to know. You know what I'm saying? For instance, people in New York City actually buy their cigarettes in New Jersey, and people in New Jersey actually get their cigarettes from Pennsylvania. But people in Pennsylvania and New York, they come to Jersey to get their gas, and it's not an unusual thing. It's a regular thing for someone to travel from Philadelphia to New York every day from work. Matter of fact, it's people that go every day from Washington, D.C. to New York every day. That is a highly, that's a highly traveled line, that Northeast corridor. And so for us, because we have this natural interstate commerce that naturally takes place here, because that's something that tourists wouldn't know. You know what I'm saying? But because we have this natural interstate commerce thing going on, the cannabis industry here, we have to take a regional approach to how we view it. And so you cannot talk cannabis legalization in New Jersey and say nothing about New York or Pennsylvania. It's vice versa. You can't talk about it in New York and not say anything about Connecticut and New Jersey. And so these things, require a particular type of nuance that you got to be here. You got to be from here in order to know how to traverse these uncharted territories. I live in Trenton, New Jersey, and within a 250 square mile radius of the capital city of New Jersey, you're talking somewhere around 27.5 million people. And 21 of them are over the age of 21. You see what I'm saying? So this is a whole nother, New Jersey is sandwiched between the number 4 media market in the country, which is Philadelphia, and the number 1 cannabis consuming city in the world, which is New York. Karachi, Pakistan is number 2. New Delhi, India is number 3. Los Angeles is number 4, and Chicago is number 8. So New York and Chicago did 1 and 8 with this shit being illegal. So as you can, so you see, like, we talking big money, and what the kind of money that we are talking about.
What's legality going to bring to the table?
Right. And see, the thing is that the kind of money that we are talking about for every one of these states, for Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, what we are talking about is brand new, unaccounted for money.
Right.
We're not talking about, taking some part of the budget and taking from one department to the other. Hell no. This is new money. Right. This is the billions that's been flowing. And understand something. That didn't happen by happenstance. This is cultural here. You know what I'm saying? And because it's cultural, there's this whole underground like society type situation here where you have the cannabis culture is tribal. There are chieftains and shamans and village elders. I mean, damn, David, we even got village fools. I mean, shit, we got the whole thing in this culture here. And what ends up happening, and that's the thing that makes it a bit different from the West Coast. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because what I notice is when you look at a lot of the West Coast MSOs, multi-state operators, who are looking to come here on the East Coast, see what they do is because they have a failure to understand that whole tribalism thing and regional aspect. What they do is they send insensitive little white boy twerps, you know what I'm saying, who are tone deaf and culturally insensitive. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they do. And they come here and they don't know how things work. They don't know who's who. You know, the degrees of separation for those of us who are really in this industry here on the East Coast is like 2. You know what I'm saying? And so
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that every time I visit New Jersey and I visit the team up there. It's like, wow, this is a different world. And it's going to be an enormous world. And I think the challenge presented from a social equity and social justice perspective is quite clear. What the challenge and the opportunity is. So how do we as an industry address it? That's
well, you know, it starts off with the
other than just you and I talking about it.
Yeah, well, I've started telling some people, because I've been doing a few speeches and public speaking engagements, and to your point, I've been telling people, because they said, well, what can we do? And I said, what we got to do is we got to stop talking to just each other, because we're just getting to a preaching to the choir type of perspective here.
Loop. We're in a sound loop, yeah.
Yeah, there's like, you know, you got millions of people who literally in the last couple of years went from kind of curious to kind of serious because they had to. You know what I'm saying? There's, you know, like their jobs is never coming back. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they don't understand who's who. And so, mind you, we're the one industry that's still in need of human hands. And I figured that shit out when I went to McDonald's the other day and checked myself out. I ordered my food and checked myself out. And it was just somebody just hand me my food. And I said, damn, it's changed. Like, here it is.
And talk about, I mean, when you think about it also, because of interstate commerce and the illegality of cannabis federally, it's the ultimate of buying locally. Everybody buy local. In today's legal environment, everything, the entire supply chain is practically local. Your lights and some of your greenhouse supplies might come from another state, but everything is grown local. It's made local. It's packaged local. It's distributed local.
Listen, what we're talking about, we're not just talking about facilitating a cultural shift in how we view this plant. We're also talking about facilitating a massive, massive transfer of wealth. Logistically, it almost can't be quantified. For every single problem that you can bring up, especially when you're talking about federal legalization, every single problem that you bring up, that's like a couple of jobs. Like, seriously. You know what I'm saying? You know, there are people, I'm 47 years old, Daniel, and there are people who are going to be my age whose bosses are going to be like 22 and 23 years old. You know what I'm saying? And that 22 and 23-year-old probably got like 10 years of experience in the shit. Because a lot of people are smoking, like, you don't realize, first of all consumption is medicinal. So a lot of people have been medicating since they were 12, 13 years old. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that, you know, what we have to do is we have to have a lot of people learn something brand new. Bro, we are in such a baby stage, we don't even have an industry standard unit of measurement yet. Ain't that something?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Wait till the FDA gets involved.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, wait till we gotta start figuring out how to solve import-export challenges. Tariffs.
I mean, the whole revenue stream. I was just having this conversation with somebody today. The states are not anxious for federal legalization. They don't want to share the revenue. If you look at cigarette and alcohol taxes, 80% of it is fed, and only 20% it stays in the state and local. And so the states are not anxious. Colorado's gotten over $1 billion in revenue. They're going to have to give a chunk of that to the feds. They're not going to be happy, but they're not in a hurry.
Yep.
That's not necessarily the right thing for the country, certainly not the right thing for the citizens of this country, but I'm just saying it's a fact.
Well, the thing is that with all those stats that I gave you, population, you know what I'm saying, number of people who are over 21, you know, and then you couple that with the fact that unlike any other state fresh out for adult use, you know, New Jersey's been able to do some things that are, I think, pretty phenomenal. You know, like, you know, 30% of all licenses have to go to people of color, veterans, minorities, and it's shall, not may. You know what I'm saying? Which is a difference. Like, you know, in New York, it's 50% of all licenses may go to, you know, versus shall.
That's a very important nuance.
Yeah, people need to understand.
I'd rather have 30% of shall than 50% of may.
May, yup, that's all I'm saying. Yup, give me the shall. You know what I'm saying? But then you also, if you look at it, you know, fresh out, you know, if you are someone who was formerly incarcerated for this, you know, you don't even have to have your record expunged, but you can apply in the space. As a matter of fact, you get preferential treatment. You get pushed to the front of the line. And that's on a rolling basis. No one has done that fresh out. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then when you look at the fact that, you know, we have the funding for our social equity program is going to come by way through a cultivation excise tax that's on a sliding scale basis. You know, it pretty much guarantees that no matter what, the social equity program is always going to be funded, you know, because it's actually built in there. Because again, we did this through ballot referendum, so we changed our state constitution. So it's pretty much set in stone. But then there's also things that our governor had the foresight to do, you know, to shore up the medical marijuana program. Because normally what happens a lot of times in states that go for adult use, medical sort of kind of disappears. Well, in the state of New Jersey, here's what happens. In July of this year, all taxes on medical cannabis goes away. So you don't pay a sales tax on medical cannabis. That's number one. Number two, we also have, it is now against the law for you to be fired from your job, you know what I'm saying, for pissing hot on a piss test for pissing hot with cannabis. It is also against the law in New Jersey to have a job offered to you and then rescind it because you pissed hot for cannabis. Just depends on it does depend on certain positions are excluded from that, but for the most part, a lot of people, you know, and this is what I try to tell people, like in the ways in which we, you know, when you're going into these communities, like, you know, where we're going, you know, like you want to be, you're going to be the epicenter for that community. As a business person, you have to be an activist. You know what I'm saying? Because your presence, you know what I'm saying, sets off so many other things. And it's going to be up to you to explain to the people in that community why your presence is a benefit rather than a negative. You know, for instance, you know, you actually can turn, and I think you were kind of alluding to this, but, you know, you can turn every community into an independent economic ecosystem. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so many businesses that get activated just by virtue of your presence alone. Not to mention the fact that all your restaurants and stuff like that, they're going to need help. You know what I'm saying? Because when you look at the fact that Papa John's was like one of the largest private benefactors of cannabis going legal in Colorado. And that was because they were, at the time it went legal for adult use, Papa John's was like the largest food chain in that area in Denver. That was like an adrenaline shot. What happens when people smoke weed? They get the munchies. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they could afford Peyton Manning. You know what I'm saying? You know, like seriously, you know, it happened right in front of our faces and no one really understood what exactly the correlation, you know? And so, you know, like you have to, you know, like you have to.
One of the things that strikes me is when I look in Colorado and, you know, in the $1 billion and they're building pickleball courts and playgrounds and those are all wonderful, wonderful assets for the community. But out of the $1 billion, how many actually go to helping solve the social equity issue?
Well, that's why I don't like using I don't like using Colorado as an example of any. Colorado is what you don't do. You know what I'm saying? California is what you don't do. You know what I'm saying? Like all these states who have legalized before us have done it in a way that you just don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? Even with New Jersey doing what it's done, there are aspects about what we have here that you don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? It's our job to say, look, okay, here in New York, here's what we did, make it better.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Then New York is supposed to say, you know what? Okay, Pennsylvania, here's what we did, make it better. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, like, because here's the thing, also fresh out that you don't see when a state, historically, when a state legalizes for adult use, right? What you don't see is the regulatory authority being as reflective of the population as New Jersey's is fresh out. The New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission is chaired by a Black woman named Diana Waynu. There's a Black man who is a commissioner. There's a Latina who is a commissioner. You know what I'm saying? There's the director of communications is African American. You know, the director
that's how you do it.
The director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion is a Black man. The deputy executive director is a Black woman. You see what I'm saying? And so when you look at that kind of representation, because if you ask 10 different activists what social equity is, you're going to get 10 different answers. My answer is, I want social equity is representation in policy making, in administration, in enforcement, and
reflective of the population.
Right.
The population.
Right. And when you look at New Jersey's Cannabis Regulatory Commission, I mean, well, damn, they hit all the marks. You know what I'm saying? And then look at what New York is doing. You know what I'm saying? With Tremaine Wright and Chris Alexander. You see what I'm saying? So there's these, you see, like there's even more representation fresh out. You know what I'm saying? And mind you, it's pretty remarkable when you have a state legislature that, you know what I'm saying, its predecessors, and a lot of these people are still there. You know, not even a few years ago, we were locking up 32,000 people a year for low-level, nonviolent minor possession of cannabis. Oh. You know, New Jersey has the largest racial disparity of incarcerated citizens in the country. You know what I'm saying? We were spending $145 million a year on this, okay? So you got to understand something. This thing here, it interrupts a whole lot of stuff. It interrupts 3 types of money. Yeah. The first type of money cannabis legalization interrupts in New Jersey is old money. That would be the pharmaceutical industry, because they've been operating in this state for generations, okay? Yeah. Then the second type of money you messing with is long money. And that would be the alcohol industry. And they've been operating in this state for a long ass time too.
During Prohibition.
Right.
Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah. And the third type of money you messing with is big money. And that would be the prison industrial complex, because it's been thriving here, evidenced by the numbers that I just gave you. Despite the fact that 80% of the people that get locked up for this look like me here. Right. Now, we all, Black and white people, use this at the same rate. Yep. You see what I'm saying? So when there was a report that came out that talked about the use of force rate here in New Jersey. And of all the use of force rate, Black and brown people make up 81% of the use of force rate. So not only in this state do they like to arrest us for this shit, you know what I'm saying? But they like to beat us too. So that tells you that the intentional targeting and tormenting people in communities of colors in New Jersey, that's a thing. Yeah. Like, it's a real thing. And check this out, Dan. You want to know what else is a thing here? Cops in New Jersey, cops kill themselves here. That shit is real. Like, they got the Roy Rage thing. That's a big deal here. Right. You know what I'm saying? So these cops is hurting too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, sure. this whole PTSD thing, you'd be surprised if people
It's
would
false
actually.
corruption. I had a fascinating experience. Literally a month before legalization in Canada, I was at a cannabis conference in St. John, New Brunswick, and it's become so much part of our muscle memory, the illegality and the stigma of smoking marijuana. Even though we were at a conference, we were outside a bar when there was a reception, and we're lighting up, and there was a African American with dreadlocks with me. And there was a white dude with dreadlocks and a couple other people were sitting there passing a joint, and two policemen pull up and we all pucker up. And they walk in and they walk right past us. And we said, oh, we realized they're not interested in us, that it's almost legal. They're not paying attention to this shit. And we said, we all kind of like let down. We said, you guys want to join us? And I said, I can't on duty, but I promise you after duty, I might come by. And that was my aha moment, Leo, that they're hurting too.
Yeah.
On the other side of the equation. They're thrilled to be rid of this stuff. They don't want to be doing this stuff either.
Well, you know what? You know who the private prison's favorite inmate is?
Who?
Us.
Oh yeah.
Because cannabis, the people that are in jail for cannabis, you know what?
They're low-level offenders. They're not violent. They're easy to take.
Yes, they're least likely to
pack
provide.
you can make a lot of money off a black man, a cannabis offender in a prison. You're right.
So yeah, see, and that's the thing. It's rampant here in New Jersey. You got to realize, man, you know, a lot of reputations and careers, a lot of that stuff was made with this being illegal. Right. And a lot of the people who these things have come to pass, who's watched it happen on,
right,
and they still in the state house. Some of them still there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
One of the things you like to say is, you know, we're in the very first season of the 5th episode of this whole story. And one of the things that strikes me of that whole concept is, yeah, we are at the very beginning of the story. If you look at the 3 verticals that are going to the cannabis space, it's obviously it's alcohol, and Constellation's investment in Canopy is evidence of that, as well as some other big investments from the alcohol sector into cannabis. The second is obviously tobacco. We look at Altria and what they've done. They've made some big investments, you know, multi-million-dollar, multi-figure investments. And the next one now is pharmaceutical. Pfizer's acquisition of Arena Pharmaceutical last fall or November for $6.4 billion. That solidifies that the 3 verticals are going to be the verticals where the money, as you like to talk about, is going to go. So when we talk about social equity, we talk about the very first season. The stuff we're talking about is really the very beginning. We're talking about licenses for the early cultivators, for the manufacturers. But when big tobacco gets in, when big alcohol gets in, when big pharma gets in, how do we make sure that social equity is still part of that equation?
Well, the thing is that, you know, like all of us, for those of us who have been doing this for quite a while, we do talk as if it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's what's going to happen. But see, here's what I've come to understand, especially about our people. You know what I'm saying? And I'm making a clear distinction between, when I say our people, I'm talking about our tribe, me and you. You know what I'm saying? Not black people, but just me, our tribe, the cannabis tribe. One thing that people, you know, I think fail to realize is that cannabis consumers are notoriously loyal to a fault. Rarely do we step away from our regular dealer. You know what I'm saying? You used to not be able to say this, but a lot of us have had the same guy for like 20 years. You know what I'm saying? They know he got the fire shit. That's all I care about. It gets me high. That's what I want. You know what I'm saying? Because for a lot of people, it's their nightcap. You know what I mean? And so as the general population becomes much more educated, you know what I'm saying, and you have these different brands who are identifying themselves, you know, I think a lot of those, like you said, companies, I don't think they're gonna have an easy go as folks think they will. I really don't. You know what I'm saying? Because again, it's really going to come down to quality genetics. Yeah. Who is growing that fire shit? That's all they need to know. You know what I'm saying? Because if you
right now, people are loyal to the plant. They're not loyal to any brands. They're starting to acquire loyalty to brands. They're starting to acquire loyalty to strains. It's starting to evolve very, very rapidly. I live in an illegal state, and I was just in Arizona, and I was shocked at how quickly Arizona has evolved to a good extent in terms of quality and variety and access. But it's still, as you like to say, the second episode, third episode of the first season.
Well, yeah, right now we're picking the new old names.
Yeah,
that's what we're, at one time or another, Anheuser and Busch were new names.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I would often tell people, none of us are going to be here to see the penthouse of our work. This is going to outlive us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're the only ones, bust it. We're the only ones who will ever experience the end of prohibition. That's going to happen in our lifetime. Right. You understand what I'm saying? I'm sure Anheuser and Busch did not imagine Clydesdales kicking their beer bottles on Super Bowl Sunday when they first got into the business. That was over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And that's where we at now. And what is really required of us is to think 4 or 5 generations from now. And we have to make sure that there are mechanisms in place today that if things don't make sense then, they can use those mechanisms to make it make sense then. Right. You know what I'm saying? And it's really, really, really hard to get people to think that way, who live in an instant gratification type of society, such as the one that we live in.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You know what I'm saying? And there's also, because you got to remember, when it comes to cannabis legalization, look, cannabis is like that much of the shit these politicians got to think about. Okay? It ain't even, you don't even need to talk to them. It's their staffers that you got to talk to. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like keeping it always a buck. You know what I'm saying? If you really want to know how it go down, that's how it go down. You got to get to know the staffers. You know what I'm saying? Because they're the ones who read your shit. They're the ones who go and talk to the senator, and they make the case. You know what I'm saying? Why we should go this way, and they go through it. Those are the ones you really got to educate. You see what I'm saying? And again, when you're looking at watching how all of this is transitioning, you know what I'm saying, and you see what's happening, pretty soon you're not going to have somebody applying for a license in cannabis that was formerly incarcerated for this. Right. They're going to have been generated out after a while.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. So therefore,
it's important to take notice now. One of the things I like to do is because your perspective is so interesting, is predictions, and you're doing that a little bit now, but you're predicting out 50, 60 years. What do you think the next year? When do you think federal legalization is going to happen? What do you think the rollout in the Northeast is going to look like? Give us a view of the next few years, what you think is going to roll out.
Okay, well, let me preference everything that I'm going to say with, remember, I'm the black guy in this movie. We don't always make it. So my perspective, you know what I'm saying? My camera lens is I'm always trying to figure out how I'm gonna LL Cool J this shit and make it out of this horror movie. Okay. Now, I think that, yes, I do think that cannabis legalization is going to come federally a lot sooner than people would have imagined. And I think some of it's going to be a byproduct of World War III now having just kicked off. You know what I'm saying? Everybody going to need to smoke a joint. Matter of fact, if you just start passing this shit out over there right now, we might fuck around and end this war and have a real come to Jesus moment. That's all Biden and Putin, Banana Putin need to do. Smoke a joint. Look, I got some good shit. We can smoke some Obama runs.
I just think get some water soluble Ripple and just dose them.
Y'all, let them go.
Put it in the water.
I bet you if we gave this to Putin, he wouldn't even touch no vodka. We get him off that liquor. You know what I'm saying? Right. The only problem is that Biden know the ass might fall asleep. So you never know. I mean, he don't got medication and shit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, but I think that cannabis legalization is going to happen in the next, federally, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, truth be told, especially with there being midterms, and then you got presidential elections, you know what I'm saying? whoever the Democrats roll out for president is going to be the one to run on making cannabis federally legal. And then I think the Republicans are going to try to steal it from them. And I think Republicans are going to try to steal cannabis legalization from Democrats because, you know what I'm saying, Joe Biden is out of touch. You know what I'm saying? When you listen to him say, when you listen to Joe Biden talk about cannabis, first thing that fly out his mouth is rehab. So that already tells you how
rehabbing gateway.
Yeah, he still talks that way.
We have a problem with opioids. We don't want to add to the problem. It's like, oh, geez, the same talking points. He's just stuck.
And Pete, here's another prediction too. I also predict that the National Cannabis Party that Redman started with Safita Artist, I think that's going to be a damn thing too. You know what I'm saying? I really do, because I look at the fact that, you know, a lot of people, I'm 47, so a lot of Gen Xers and millennials on down were not feeling this dude. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, this guy, he was a better option than Trump. I get it, but I just don't. And I think when they start seeing, you know, they have options, you know what I'm saying? I really do think that, I don't see him.
It strikes me as so obvious, but, you know, obviously I'm an advocate and a believer, but it strikes me so obvious that the Democrats and Biden specifically should embrace this as a cause if they want to motivate young people to vote. Because you talk about 67% in Jersey, but the Democrats' key to success is young people, period.
Yep.
They don't vote. They just don't friggin' vote. How do you motivate them to vote? If you say weed's on the ballot and you say you vote for me and weed will be legal, guess what? They'll vote.
That's a wrap. That's all they need to hear.
I mean, if you look at the polls for anybody under 40, it's off the charts. It's not even close. 70, 80%. So why wouldn't you do something? Throw them a bone. And it's not like they agree with it. Yeah, passively. They strongly agree with legalization.
Look, Pete, I was talking to a state senator. I ain't gonna say no names, right? But I went off on him. And let me tell you what he did. Let me tell you how he did. We were going back and forth, whoop-de-whoop, yada, yada. I said my part, blasey, smackety. And in the midst of me talking, right, and he was doing, I saw this, I saw that part of his nose. I saw it do like that. I saw it. I caught the twitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I realized, and listen, when I caught it, right, when he did that, I said, I did just like this. I said, what the fuck? And I went through the whole range of emotions right in front of him. And I went, what the fuck? Oh, shit. You think I'm an addict? Oh, that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? See, Leo might be saying, you know, speak so well spoken, you know, so articulate. You know what the fuck they talking about. But I'm just saying, I might be saying really nice things, but all I am is just a high functioning addict to you, but an addict nonetheless. I was an addict like Pookie from the movie, Chris Rock's character. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really think like they put me in the same category, like I shoot shit up.
Listen, I mean, the FDA puts cannabis in the same category. As,
I know.
It's coming at. To be fair, it's been coming at them from all directions for their entire lives, and it's some of them are waking up. My favorite story of physicians coming around, because that's the world we play in, is physician education. You know, when I first started in this business 5 years ago, coming from Pharma, it was fascinating because physicians were real mixed. Some were okay. Yeah, I love it. It's great, terrific. But, you know, not for my patients. There's not enough. My favorite is not enough research, even though there's just reams of peer-reviewed, serious research, especially coming out of Israel. So as that shift has happened, you see people saying, well, maybe there's more to it. Maybe it is a medicine. Maybe, but it's so far away from universally accepted. It's scary. And it's going to take a lot of discussions like this. And it's going to take that's my passion, is physician education, because I really do think once physicians, the 1.5 million physicians in this country, once they embrace it as a medicine and they understand it as a medicine, I think societal norms change across the board. Because that's the doctors for advice.
Oh, people are, I was going to say, people are married to whatever their doctors tell them. You know what I'm saying? So if the doctors tell them that's why that medication shit is real.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying? Like, listen, yo, they are passing those pills out at the VA like it's candy.
Right.
I mean, now they mail that shit to us.
Right.
Some of us are getting that shit in the mail. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how, like, it is like, and check it out. That number, 22 veteran suicides a day.
Okay.
Yeah, see, that's just actually the number they settled on. It's more than that. That shit
it's
is
the medicine
real.
they're giving them. It's causing the suicides. And
oh, listen,
if we want to get social equity, I mean, the next level of discussion is you look at a country like Israel, where the health system actually pays for medical cannabis, just like it would pay for any pill. We are so far away from that here, but that is another aspirational goal I think we as a cannabis community should embrace, is that cannabis as medicine needs to be reimbursed by insurance companies.
Well, let me appeal to people's financial sense too. You know what I'm saying? Because again, this is a byproduct of coming from New Jersey. Because, you know, one thing I'll say about people from New Jersey and New York and everything's about a hustle here. You know what I'm saying? And we all think it's numbers. So let me appeal to y'all in this different way. United States taxpaying citizen, you spent about $3 to $4 million on me. That's how much it cost you, taxpaying citizen. That's how much it cost you to train me, to send me off to war, to feed me, to clothe me, to pay me, everything. Y'all still paying for me. It's adding up to about $4 million. And I went to school to learn how to work on satellites and microwave communications, okay? So it's not like y'all had me in some cheap ass school. I went to Fort Gordon Signal School, you know what I'm saying, Fort Gordon, Georgia. So trust me, I got my security clearances and all that shit. And I lived over in Europe. So trust me, you taxpaying citizen, you spent a pretty dime on me, a nice little dime on me, okay? Now, since we've been on this thing here, you know what I've given you? I've given you a better rate of return on investment than a damn suicide. And you getting 22 a day of those.
Right.
That's, if you really want to talk about like wasteful spending, wouldn't you like to get a little bit more out of your investment? And that's what I'm saying.
When society gets more.
Like if there's one other way I can try to appeal to your better side, because you want to know why? Here's the thing, y'all. Here's what they don't tell you about how shit work in the army or in the military period. Every day, those drill sergeants, they beat into your platoon sergeants. They tell you every day how much the people of the United States taxpayers are paying for that Humvee, that damn screwdriver, that damn truck. They tell you, hey, don't, Bridgewater, don't fuck up that truck. The American people paid $50,000 for that truck. You fuck that truck up, you get fucked up. They tell you how much the missiles cost that they shoot out and shit like that. One of those things is like 15 mil.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, start counting that shit, and then you wonder. You know what I'm saying? So again, you spent $4 million on me. You know what I'm saying? How look? Are you happy? Are you happy with your investment so far? You know what I'm saying? Are you happy? You know, because every time you see a veteran on a park bench, you know what I'm saying, or a veteran killing themselves, you know what I'm saying? It's not just in a hero, but that's money invested in that person.
Flushing money
right down the drain. And you'd be surprised the shit that we pay our soldiers to do. There's no job in the United States that there isn't. Every job, damn near every job in the civilian world, you know, as far as like from a civics perspective, is available in the Army. You go to school for that.
Natural equivalent for every job.
Yes, you go to school for that. But you know what's happening? They sending us out there on a continuous basis. Cats coming home, shit look different, and they doing themselves. They can't do it. 4 friends have attempted so far, and 3 were successful. Wow, that's where I'm at right now with it. You know what I'm saying? The one dude tried it a couple weeks after I came off my honeymoon, and it was the first time my wife had ever experienced anything like that. You know what I'm saying? And here I am. I'm like 3, 4 in. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that type of it's that type of shit, and it's really happening. But here's the thing: what I am working on is changing that narrative, because at this point I'm so sick of when you say veteran, you think suicide or homelessness. We're more than that. And when you got the fact that they are actually putting out specific carve-outs in these laws for us, oh shit, hell yeah. 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 Now take our hand and let us show you how to America. Because we about to America the shit out of this, for real. Right. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm at with it all. I'm just trying to, my goal is to change the narrative on when you think of veterans, because, you know, like we're the one demographic that is not defined by state lines, and we literally represent every single race in the United States. You know what I'm saying? We're represented by everybody, Muslims, you know, Hindus. I mean, we even got motherfucking Wiccans in the damn army, and you know what I'm saying? And everybody's welcome. You see what I'm saying? Like, seriously, they be out in the woods with that shit. You know what I'm saying? But they get to do their thing. You know what I'm saying? America is not a melting pot. America is a salad bowl. And you think about all the ingredients that go into what it would take to make a good salad. Well, no one ingredient loses its identity. They just all come together to make one good ass salad. You know what I'm saying? And we just need to, you know, we got to change that. You know what I'm saying? It's a little too much ranch on this bitch. We need to change that shit up. So we just got to, you know what I'm saying? That's all. You know, we just got to, you know, like we got to, and it has to be done by example. And I think that's what your veteran population is. That's what we're taught to do. You got the greatest military in the history of the planet. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason for that. You know, and so that's the you know, and the secret to our success is that we've always done it one way. You know what I'm saying?
We've also committed to taking care of our soldiers, and I think we've dropped that commitment, and as a society. And one of the things that strikes me about cannabis is, you know, I said when I got into cannabis that it could be a component to the solution to the opioid crisis. And the more I got into it, the more I realized it should be and will be a cornerstone of the solution to the opioid crisis, from starting all the way through treatment to get off methadone. And now I believe that with veterans as well. I do believe that it should be a cornerstone of the solution to the veterans' problems, because
listen, the most infuriating thing about all of this for me is the fact that 2% of this plant literally takes up 98% of the conversation.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like 2% of this plant takes up 98% of the conversation, because this whole time I've been sitting here talking about cannabis, this, cannabis, that, and we ain't said nothing about hemp.
Nothing. Yeah.
And I'm talking.
We're going to be paving our roads in hemp. We're going to be.
And I'm talking about
our homes with hemp.
Just to be clear, when I say hemp, I ain't talking about no CBD, Delta 8, no. I'm talking about industrial hemp. You want to figure out how we can rebuild the hood? Okay, let's get some decortification centers out this piece, and let's start building some hempcrete and hemp wood factories. You know what I'm saying? We could rebuild the whole damn city on the cheap with stronger shit too.
Right. And environmentally,
yeah. You know what I'm saying?
If hemp is harvested in a certain way, its root systems can grow to as deep as 6 feet. And if you let it regenerate after, those root systems will actually sequester carbon. If we plant enough hemp plants, you think about sequestering carbon, that is the easiest, cheapest way to get benefit from the plant, as well as sequestering carbon at the same time.
It's how you change your drought issues in certain areas and whatnot. If you have land that is now unusable, you know what I'm saying? Okay, plant some hemp. Just suck all that shit out, all that toxins out and everything. Right. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You want to save Flint? Yeah. Plant some hemp.
I agree. Well, you are officially my longest interview, because I could just go for another 3 hours with you, man. I love talking to you. It's your perspective on life, your perspective on cannabis and social justice always makes me smile and gives me hope. And
I'm an NCO. I'm a non-commissioned officer, and we're the ones that tell it like it is. We're not here to blow smoke up your ass, because we ain't got time for that. This is the what is.
We got a job to do.
I got work to do. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm gonna give you this information, and what you do with it is what you do with it. But that don't mean that I'm going to stop and watch you go through the process, watch you go through the whole thing of processing all this stuff because you're brand new to this. There's a whole lot of work that has to get done. That's all. I tell my son this all the time. It's very difficult being someone who has the lights constantly on in your head. You know what I'm saying? Because you go to bed with this shit on your mind. You wake up with this shit on your mind. And it's not that you're obsessing. It's just that much work.
And
it is a
it's that much
massive
work, and it's that important. And it has the ability to totally transform our society over the next decade. And that's
and I hope
about your society, your story, because I mean, we all know that the plant can transform our society on many levels, and the plant can transform our society. And the level you talk about is probably the most interesting to me, because at the end of the day, we're all a bunch of human beings, and how's it going to change us as human beings? I met a scientist that said there is a theory floating around the scientific community within the cannabinoid community in Israel that cannabis is responsible for human beings ascension to being sentient, that we would not be sentient without the cannabinoids being introduced thousands of years ago.
I think a bunch of our Neanderthal fathers found this shit growing wildly somewhere in Africa.
That's how we evolved. That is the theory.
They ate this shit and was like, hold up, you know what I'm saying? And they started talking, you know, and they was like, yo, this is, you know, like, I really think
got any cheese whiz? Anybody got any cheese whiz? No, they didn't have that. But
that's where the monkeys come from. But what I do hope is that people recognize the fact that the way I talk and the things that I say, you know, I hope you don't confuse it with arrogance. I hope you understand it's not arrogance. This is urgency.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I'm working with a particular type of urgency that, you know, because of this urgency, it's reflective in the way that I talk. You know what I'm saying? Because this is midterms, y'all. This is, you know, things are happening. This shit, this conversation is happening with or without us.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? It's already the train done already left the station. You know what I'm saying? And so what's gonna have to happen, Dan, especially for people of color like Black people, you know what I'm saying? Our recognized and identified leaders need to be time appropriate. And what I mean by that is Al Sharpton, Michael Jordan, and Oprah Winfrey are not Al Sharpton, Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey in the cannabis world. I mean, we know who they are, but they ain't that. You know what I'm saying? And what you need to do is, what people need to do is you need to recognize that you need to stop going to them for that information, because unfortunately, Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, Al Sharpton keep answering the question on what to do with Black people, and they keep fucking it up. It's not the answer. You know what I'm saying? What you need to do is you need to talk to people like a Leo Bridgewater, like a Wanda James, like a Dashida Dawson. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like a Gia Marone. You know what I'm saying? These are a Eugene Monroe. These are people whose craft is this business, has been advocating for it, know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? And also counsel with those who actually are policy makers. You know what I'm saying? That is, people need to realize the real hard work is currently being done
right now.
You know what I'm saying? And you're late to the game. You know what I'm saying? But there's still opportunity for you to get involved. You know, first thing you need to do is get a political calendar persuasion to your overall strategy, period. You know what I'm saying? And then once you start realizing what's all happening, you know, start making your voice and your demands need, and and join these organizations, not NAACP or AACC, but more like M for MM, Women Grow, MCBA, NCIA. These are your cannabis organizations that have been putting in the actual work. You know what I'm saying? Those other traditional organizations have been trying to, you know, again, I'm not going to bash. I'm just going to say they're not time appropriate. You know what I'm saying? You need to know who's who.
Well, let's wrap it up, Leo. Leo Bridgewater, it is always just an honor and a privilege to chat with you. I can't wait to meet you in person, light up, and give you a hug.
I was gonna say, yeah, we gotta line up. That's what it was.
Virtually just doesn't cut it.
No, but you know what though? These things, what happens is these things quickly turn into therapy sessions, especially like the in-person joints. They turn into therapy sessions. People get up, they speak their truth to power. Everybody clap. We go home, don't nobody do nothing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm done with the hypotheticals and theory. God damn it, we got work to do.